Hi, my name is Diana. I am the program coordinator at the Buchanan Area Senior Center. Thank you for being here. We're very excited. You are at Conversations with Friends. We are featuring Sabine Wheetley. And Sabine and I go back a few years. We're good friends and excited. She's part of the reason why I am at this beautiful place that I love to call my home and with all my friends. I love you guys. So very excited, but let's talk to Mrs. Sabina. Sabina, so tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up? What did you like to do?
Childhood. All right. That was so long ago. How can we remember it?
I'm sure you have some fun memories.
I have some great memories of my childhood. I'm an only child. Doesn't mean I was spoiled, but I had a great upbringing. My dad and I spent so much time with each other. My mom worked nights, so as soon as my dad would come home, my mom would push the stroller at him, and she'd go off to work. And so it'd be my dad and I for the evenings. And even as I got older, I mean, we would go for bike rides, roller skating, you name it, ice skating, just always busy. I knew when he would come home, he wanted dinner and a little nap, and then we would go and do something. On the weekends, sometimes my mom worked on the weekends, so it was my dad, my uncle, and I, so the Three Musketeers. And I would go to soccer games, hockey games, boxing matches,
Like
horse
professional?
radish. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because of what my dad wanted to go do and see something, I went along. So we would go hiking every Saturday. Go for bike rides. I mean, I've had a fantastic upbringing. My mom would make sure I get the culture. So I was a tomboy with my dad, and then I had to be a lady with my mom. And I would go to concerts with her, and operas, and musicals, and that kind of stuff. So, but I loved my childhood and my upbringing.
Yeah.
It was a lot of very good times.
So why don't you tell us where that was at?
Oh, Nuremberg, Germany. I grew up in Nuremberg, Germany, a little bit of a bigger city, so I always got teased by my cousins because each set of my cousins was in little towns. One side was the oldest, the other side was the youngest. One side I would be having to be the responsible one, and the other side I got to be the little kid. So I had a good balance. I loved being on the tractor because they were my dad's side where they were farmers, and so they had cows and they had tractors and wooded area, and I loved driving the tractor. My uncle would put me in the field. I remember one year we were planting potatoes, and just put it in low gear and said, "Go straight. I'll catch up with you at the turn." And so I would just go, and I so enjoyed all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, of course, somehow you got here to the United States of America. So why don't you tell us a little about that story?
What you're saying is, how did I meet my husband? You've been dying to ask that story. And I've been
It's a fabulous story.
and
I've
I've
heard
been
of-
dying to avoid to tell
I
it.
know. She has been. She was like, how am I going to see this? And I've heard the story before, so I'm going to know if she is lying or not.
I've heard it too.
There you go. We got that.
Always watching.
That's why you came. So there's going to be a bad word involved in this story, so I apologize already to the sensitive ears, but that is part of the story. I worked in a bakery in Germany when I was 16, so in Germany, our school is different than it is here in the United States. You either graduate at 16 and you go for an apprenticeship, or you graduate with 17 and either go an apprenticeship, which is a year shorter, or you go to school until 12th grade, which you're 18, and then you usually go to university. So I graduated with 16, and my apprenticeship was selling baked goods in a bakery. And you would think, why do you need an apprenticeship for that? I'm going to explain it a little bit. Not only did we just stay in the bakery and sell this stuff, we had to go to school once a week, and we learned bookkeeping, advertising, nutritional facts, how to set up a shop window, how to make your designs in your counter all look pretty. So we not only stood there and sold the stuff, we had learned right away how do you run your own store, so that when you graduate, when you're finished with your apprenticeship, you are ready to be a professional business person. So that said, I was working in this bakery, and it was a Saturday, and I already had my shift all finished in my store, and my boss called and said I had to go help out at this other store. Which, no big deal, I guess. You go and you do your job, and you just go and finish up the shift. I arrived there, and it happened to be that my best friend, my childhood friend, who I've known since I was 7, worked for the same company in this place. As soon as I arrived there, she's like, oh, my boyfriend is coming, and I'm going to go to lunch with him. I'm like, I just got here. I'm supposed to help out. I didn't even have lunch yet. So I started to be a little bit in a bad mood. And here we go. Here comes her boyfriend, which was an American guy, a soldier, and about 15 other American soldiers. And my girlfriend and the other girl that worked in the store, they're like, oh, we're going to go have lunch. I'm like, wait, I'm here because you're so short-staffed. Are you going to leave me in the store by myself? They're like, oh, you can handle it for a while. And that put me over the top. I was in a bad mood.
You cranky girl.
Cranky. I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch
She's
yet.
cranky.
Yeah. Always have been. Still am to this day. But anyways, so the 2 girls leave with all the guys but one guy. And he stood in front of the counter. He wore his cap and these mirrored sunglasses. And I wasn't having it. And I just looked at him, and I'm sorry, I know he's your son. My mother-in-law is right here in the audience. And I looked at him and I said, I don't serve assholes. And I turned around and walked away. And I turned around, I'm like, he ain't leaving. So I'm like, I had to go back and I had to be professional as I could. And I had to serve him and get him a little, item that he wanted, and I thought that was that. But no, he ended up waiting with the other guys, and that kind of is how we met.
Did he ask you out then?
He asked me out about a week after, but I refused.
How many times did you refuse?
3 months worth. Yeah, he had to work really hard to get my interest. I mean, I'm not going to say I wasn't interested, but I wasn't going to make it easy on him.
Yeah.
So.
Was it because of him being an American soldier?
Yes. They kind of had a bad reputation. They just come there for fun. So, still do, yeah. But so we came up with an agreement. He asked me to show him around town for all the non-touristy places. In exchange, he would take me out to my favorite restaurants. And again, hungry, angry, so like to eat, always have. I agreed. So we kind of did that for another good 3 months of just, I would show him around, and then he would take me out for dinner, and then we would part ways. And after those 3 months, I guess we both kind of thought, I guess we do like each other.
Smitten, so you wasn't smitten right away? Were you kind of smitten?
I was kind of smitten, but at that point, I was 16 when I met him.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like, he was 18, and I was like, I'm too young for any relationships yet and all that.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep the smart head, but then, the heart takes over, and yeah, one night we were at this place where we would go for dancing and all that, and they played a slow song, and he grabbed my arm, and all the other guys stood up like, if she's protesting, we're going to protect her. There was no protection needed. I wasn't protesting anymore. So.
Oh, wow. So what else do you want to share about that love story? Anything else? So how long did you do, so you stay away for 3 months, okay, I'll be your friend for 3 months. So,
let's see, I met him when I was 16 and we got married when I was 18.
okay, so about 1.5 years there then,
Yeah.
overseas.
Yep. Yeah, we had this discussion about getting married, and I said, well, what are your plans for if we do get married? Are we staying here? Are we going there? How is this life gonna work?
Yes.
And I have to say, I spoke very little English, so our conversations were a lot with the
Oh, the translator books?
English, German translator books. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we had to communicate, and but it had gotten a little bit better, and so I asked him what the plans were, and he's like, well, I would like to stay in the military and special forces. I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, it means I would be gone for like 6 months at a time, and I couldn't tell you where I'm going, and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, I'm not marrying you then. I'm not going with you. I'm not leaving all of this to go to another country where I know nobody and just get dropped, and then you take off all the time. So that's when he decided to leave the military, and then his dad found him a job here. So
Okay.
yeah.
So how were you married and living in Germany at any point in time?
Yep, we got married. We got married twice.
Okay.
So
Once here, once
no,
there?
no, both in Germany. In Germany, you're not legally married in the church. So if you want a church wedding, that is a separate event. You have to get married in front of a justice of the peace, like at City Hall. So that's the only way to be legally married in Germany. And so we had our wedding at the Justice of the Peace on March 18th. And then I insisted on a church wedding, as a good little Catholic girl I was. And we had our church wedding on May 9th. Yeah.
Oh, so you had to, yeah, so not so long ago.
Yep. So
How many years?
34 years.
And out of those 34, so then you came to America?
Yeah,
Before we look.
Oh, yeah, we were married, got married in March legally. He left the end of May
Okay.
because he wasn't supposed to leave till August. But then there was all this early on political stuff, and so he had to leave early in May, at the end of May. And I couldn't leave yet for a couple of reasons. I was just finishing my apprenticeship, so I was just testing. And I wasn't going to stop that with only a month to go. And, I'm like, well, if this doesn't work out and I got to come back, I got to have to fall back. So, I left August 14th is when I arrived in this country.
Okay,
So
so a couple months apart.
I had to wait and get my visa and everything, all my paperwork. So I had to deal with the MPs on base by myself. I had to get to the consulate in Frankfurt by myself and get all my paperwork taken care of. And it took longer than it was supposed to take. So I get to the consulate and they're asking me all these questions. Mind you, I didn't speak much English back then. So the lady's asking me, she's like, why did your husband contact his senator? I was like, what's a senator? So actually, who he contacted was Congressman Upton.
Oh, okay.
And Congressman Upton actually helped me get my visa quicker.
Okay.
So,
Oh, sweet.
yeah. And that was 34 years ago.
34 years ago.
Oh,
Wonderful. And then, so you came to America, and you have children now.
We have
Well,
children.
not- you started having
It
children.
took a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came here, and we were just talking about that story earlier. My arrival was very eventful. I flew from my hometown Nuremberg to Frankfurt, from Frankfurt to New York City, where I had to go through immigration. And that's a whole nother ordeal. If you don't ever have to do it, don't do it. I heard it hasn't changed much, but it's very bureaucratic, And then from there, I had to take an airplane to Chicago. Well, Chicago O'Hare Airport was flooded for the first time in 50 years. So we couldn't land. We had to circle the air for almost 3 hours. And once we finally landed, it took another almost 2 hours to get to the terminal because everything was flooded and the airplanes trying to get through, and then we couldn't, so they had to send a bus and a gangway, and then we had to try and figure out it. By the time I got into the terminal with my suitcases, there are thousands of people because no airplanes can come in and out. We were the last one to land. there's all these people, and I am exhausted. You know, I've already been awake pretty much and traveling and crying because I left the only place I've ever known to come to the unknown for almost 32 hours. So I'm like, how am I gonna find my husband in all this?
We recognize him.
There are no, well, yeah, there are no cell phones. There's all these people. So I just took my suitcases, pushed them against the wall, set them, and I just waited. And eventually, out of this whole crowd, here he came. And I know, all I remembered is that his pants were all the way up to his knees covered in mud because he had to hike 2 miles through the flooded roads to get to the airport. I think that's love.
That is love. Did you just start crying when you saw him?
I did.
I would have cried now because I could just imagine.
I did. The release to just finally see him, you know, the long travel. It was hot and muggy and all these languages around me. I was just, it was just
Very overwhelming.
Very overwhelming.
Yes.
Yep.
So now you have.
So
Here are the States.
I had a return ticket because after all of this, I was like, I have 6 months to make up my mind.
You actually had a ticket.
I had a return ticket. Oh, I have to tell you a story about my mother-in-law.
Okay. She's like, oh, which one is that? Yes, Mama is right over here.
I love her. She's the best mother-in-law in the world. She knows that. So when I first came, I couldn't work yet. I hadn't had my Social Security card yet. She knows what's coming. I hadn't had a Social Security card yet. I didn't have a driver's license yet, so I had to wait for all that to get processed and to get my license. Which, by the way, if my husband ever complains about my driving, I just tell him you're the one who taught me. So, but anyways, back to my mother-in-law. She showed me the VCR and the TV, and she says, "Here's all these family tapes, videos. Why don't you watch these and get to know our family?" So I did. There's one little video that I had to rewind and put on pause until she came home and I played it for her. I didn't even let her get in the house all the way, I don't think. I said, "Hey, what about this?" It was the day before my husband left to come to Germany. She had him come sit on her lap, kinda, and she was being cozy with him, and she said to him, "Now don't you be coming home with a German woman." Because they're gonna drink a lot of beer and they're gonna get fat and mean. Her dream came true.
Well, my mother was from Germany, as was my grandmother.
Oh.
So my mom drank a lot of beer.
Honestly, then.
So
That's
yeah,
so funny.
so I've not forgotten that, and it's one of my favorite stories of how we actually got to get to know each other a little bit better.
That's hilarious.
Because we lived with them for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, but yes, now we have 3 sons. They're 33, 27, and 25. They all live in the area, and they're living their own life. Every so often they show up at the house, raid the refrigerator, and leave again. So, typical.
That means you raised them well.
That's
They
right.
was able to raise them to
Yeah.
fly and move
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Excellent, excellent. So moving to America, so what was your first job?
Ooh, well, nobody wanted to hire me.
Yeah.
So
Because your English is it better at this time?
It's
then?
getting better because I spent so much time sitting there watching family videos. Soap operas and commercials is how I learned English.
Oh, wow.
Because commercials back then still kind of showed you what is what. So I got to learn product names and, like laundry soap and butter. And the only thing I didn't learn about is Miracle Whip and mayonnaise are different. There's a story about that too, but that's for another time. But anyways, that's how I learned English pretty much. It's just by watching TV and that kind of stuff. But my first job was working in a nursing home in the kitchen as a dietary aide. So I pretty much, I did the dishes and I did the food prep and that kind of stuff. And it was very interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, you've had a lot of different careers, you know, choices.
I have had a lot of different
Um,
careers.
You've gone to school,
Mhm.
college,
Yes,
university.
I'm kind of like, I call myself a professional chameleon. When I put my mind to it, to make something work for me, to blend in, then I will work towards that. I ended up working in a nursing home as an activity director, and from there I ended up working at Fernwood for a little while. At Fernwood, unfortunately, at that time, our director was not the kindest person, and I was pregnant with my second child, and I decided that I didn't want to work anymore after having my son. So they were closed Mondays, and Mondays I would go to the not social security place, but in Ben Harbor, I would go and become a licensed daycare provider. I would go through all the classes and get all set up, and so I was a licensed daycare provider for 5 years, almost 6 years, and started going to school at night for early childhood education. So I have my associate's degree in early childhood education. From there, I ended up working at Tri-County Head Start as first as a teacher assistant, and I became a lead teacher. Eventually, I became a center director, and did that for another 5 years. And then my lovely mother-in-law called me and said, there's a place in Buchanan that is looking for somebody that speaks German. You should apply. And I'm like, well, I don't have all the computer skills that they're asking for, so I don't think I'm going to. I think I have about 6 calls. I finally applied just to get her to stop calling me. It's like, it's still in the paper. They're still looking. And I have to say that was the best thing ever, is to appease my mother-in-law to apply, because I loved my job at Bosch Rexroth here in town. I ended up becoming the executive administrative assistant there. And I was there again for almost 5.5 years. And they decided to move down to Charlotte, the facility to Charlotte, North Carolina. And that was in 2006, so when everything crashed, and we decided not to go with the company, even so it was offered to me, just because the housing market was so bad, and trying to sell a house and lose money and all that wasn't going to work for us.
Okay.
So then I worked at Whirlpool for a very short moment. I thought I wanted to work at Whirlpool, and there's 2 different people: the people that love working at Whirlpool and the people like me who move on. So I was offered the job at Whirlpool full-time. The same day I was offered a job at Bayer Healthcare, and I decided to go to Bayer Healthcare. And I started there as an executive assistant, and I ended up working in transportation, and became the freight payment and freight claim specialist there. And I worked at Bayer Healthcare for almost 9 years.
And they also.
They also moved away, so don't go working where I work at. Yeah, and from there I came over to work in town for McCarty Well Drilling, which was very nice. I really enjoyed that, small business. Loved working with the guys and the customers. And, but I learned that something in my life was lacking, that I've always chased the jobs to make the money. It doesn't mean I never liked my jobs. I loved my jobs. I also went back to school and had my bachelor degree in organizational management.
Did you do that when you was at Bosch?
I did that when I was at Bosch, yes. The thing is, I had a very bad experience as a child in school. I was told by the teachers that I was dumb, and then I was put in special ed. What we found out, which I kept telling everyone, is that I couldn't see. So finally, once I got glasses, the eye doctor told my parents, well, she's almost blind, she can't see, that's why she's struggling in school. I, at that point, lost my lust for learning. When you're categorized and that you're dumb and that you're never gonna get above this and all that, you kind of don't want to learn. So that all changed actually when I came to the States, when I realized, I think they're wrong. I'm doing this in another language. I'm not doing that in my mother tongue. I'm doing this in another language. I can learn, and that's when I actually learned that I love to learn. And that's every day before I go to bed, I try and think, what did I learn today? And that's why I kept taking these jobs. It's not to prove anything, but I just learned so much. I learned so much from all these different industries. And that is knowledge that nobody can ever take away from me. And so I decided that I needed to do what I'm passionate about. And my passion is helping other people. And so I didn't tell very many people about this. My mother-in-law, my husband, and my youngest son were the only ones who knew about this for the longest time. I went to school and got certified as a health and life coach because that is my passion. And that is what I want to pursue now.
So what you also done was at McCarty's, and then she decided she wanted to do this full time. But in the meanwhile, you were also working part time at.
I work part-time at the River Valley Senior Center. So no competition, folks. No competition.
I think we neglected to say that Sabina, she is our board secretary. So
Yeah.
and so now you are doing your life coaching.
I do my life coaching, which I enjoy. I love my clients. My clients range from in the 20s to in the 70s. I have done anything from kind of before I became a life coach, career coaching.
Yes, she does.
And I coach anything from people that are trying to lose weight. I don't give them a diet, but there are other things that I guide them through, like are the insulin levels correct? Do you take 20 minutes to eat? How many times do you chew? Those kind of things. Now on the life coaching scale, it's kind of like people that like to procrastinate. How do you get over that? Body image. How do you learn to love yourself? How do you have conversations with others? People that are very shy, just to kind of get them a little more out of their shell and all that. So I do a lot of things. I was just at a conference, and at this conference, everybody says, "Well, what's your niche? What's your niche?" And I hated that. And finally, I just sat down, and when I was asked, I said, "Listen, when somebody comes to me with an issue, I'm going to learn how to help them, and that's my niche. My niche is that I'm here for everyone.
That's beautiful.
That's the way I see it.
Yes, and the name of your business,
Spiceful Life Coaching.
and how can they find it?
They can find me on the internet, on Facebook, under Spiceful Life Coaching. I have a website, and I'm also on Instagram.
And also, if you need her, we know how to get a hold of her. We have
Yes.
contacts. So, when did you notice that helping others was something that was so passionate for you? When did that become apparent in your life?
I think that has come apparent a long time ago. People have always kind of gravitated towards me. I've always feel like I've been the person that everybody's like just to come and want to have the talks and those those kind of things. I don't want to say they came for me for advice. Even if a life coach, I don't give advice. I give action items to complete, and those become habit changes. And so once you change your habit, you live a better life. But I don't think that I've always just been somebody to go and give advice. But I always knew that I wanted to do that I wanted to be there for people like that. And I thought, I've done this for all these years. I don't want to say for free, because I get something out of it emotionally as well, It makes me happy. But there has to be an exchange of energy, I want to call it. So if I professionally give my time to you and help you, then in a professional manner, I expect to receive some monetary, some money in return.
So with self-empowerment, and for yourself, was there something that, have you always empowered yourself, or do you have like a transition that you said, okay, this is what self-empowerment means to me, this is, why it's important?
No, there was an incident.
Do you, you do not have to, but did
No,
you
no,
want to discuss?
I'll tell you. Again, I apologize, there probably is a bad word involved in that. I was very shy when I came here. Again, as I said earlier, I did not speak English much. People told me to go home. They made fun of the way I spoke, and so, you carry that with you. My oldest son was the only child at that point. He ended up being in Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. And my husband was supposed to be part of this whole spiel. He would go and be a Cub Scout leader one week, and I would do it the next week because he worked every other Thursday at night. And it turned out that my husband weaseled his way out of this, and I became the Cub Scout leader every Thursday night. And I ended up loving it. I ended up loving those boys and all that. The only thing I never did go on is the camping trips. I made sure they had all the food organized and everything and ready to go, but that was where I drew the line. I'm not sleeping in a tent.
Oh, yeah, you do.
But back then, I put my foot down. So there was an incident where we, once a month, had a PAC meeting, which means all the dads would meet and all the parents would meet. And we would have this leader who would speak and do whatever's needing to be done. Well, our leader went MIA and nobody could find him. He just up and moved out of town. How dare he, right? Didn't tell anyone, just up and moved. So yeah. But that night, nobody knew about that yet. So there's all these dads and me. And none of the dads wanted to take the lead and stand up and run the meeting. They all kept looking at me, and I'm like, why are you looking at me? It's Cub Scouts, it's boys, men. One of you should do it. And finally I said, okay. I went into the bathroom, ended up throwing up.
Because there's the nerves.
The nerves were I was so nervous and so scared because, people made fun of me in the past and all that. And so I'm like, all right, this is it. I looked in the mirror, I washed my face and everything. I looked in the mirror and I said, they're just going to get me the way I am. Either they're going to take me or they don't. But I'm going to do that. And that was truly the turning point for me where I became empowered about who I am. Yes.
Loving your true self.
Yes.
What was the bad word? He said it quietly.
It starts with F.
I was able to read her lips.
It starts with F.
Oh, friends.
Yes. So yeah, that's when I really started coming out of my shell more and took leadership, and I volunteered a lot in town. I worked with the Chamber of Commerce and Monroe.
Yeah.
I did a lot with Monroe, putting on events in towns and such, and that's how I got to know a lot of lovely people. I love Buchanan. I absolutely love Buchanan. If you would have told me at 16 I was going to marry this boy and move to a little town and loving it, I would have laughed at you.
Was your town big?
Yes. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh. So, I love empowerment, and I love empowering others. And so, a little history, so we met 12 and a half years, no, probably about 11 years ago. 11
A long
years
time ago, a decade
Yes,
ago.
yes, a decade ago. But we, we had mutual friends, and then life happens, and then Facebook happens, and we started connecting, and we both have this a version of who we are, of lifting others up, lifting ourselves up, getting together in a circle of friends. So when she said she didn't sleep in tents, that's been 4 years ago, I think.
4 or 5 years.
Yes,
I don't know.
and Miss Grace over here, Renee, her daughter Renee, are great friends. So we were going on a camping trip up to the UP, and then Sabina has asked me, Jim asked me to go to a concert with them, at the Acorn Theater and talk about, I'm going out north, can't wait. She goes, well, can I go? I'm like, I don't care, but I just got to make sure it's okay, you know, with Renee. So the three of us, you know, packed our stuff and packed our tents and went up to the UP and had a wonderful, wonderful trip. It was very empowering for all of us.
That was very empowering.
Yes.
We all are very like-minded, spiritual, like-minded.
Yes.
And I have to say, I'm a 3-time stroke survivor.
Yes.
So I have some physical limitations at times. And what happened on this trip is that Diana and Renee were walking in this beautiful little river looking for rocks, and it was slippery. So I did not feel comfortable walking down in these rocks to the waterfalls. Yes. And so I decided to take Renee's backpack, which was full of rocks, very heavy, and myself, and I was just going to wander the path along by the river, so they would wander, and we would just meet up at some point. What happened is that there were all these trees that had fallen down in a storm, and they were blocking my path. And I had 2 choices. I had one choice of figuring out how am I going to get through there, or the other choice was going all the way back and just sitting at the car and waiting. I was determined that I was not going back to the car. I took the backpack off, and I shoved it under the trees as much as I could, and then I army crawled under the tree, and I kept pushing the backpack, and got through all them trees, and I felt so empowered that I did not let those trees stop me. I was dirty too, but I was happy.
Yeah, when we came back, we're like, how did you get way up here? And it was that such a the conquer and
Exactly.
Making the choice to do something and taking it out of your element. So that was a really good weekend for all 3 of us. We all had our own little moments where we needed. It was good. It was really good. So it's time to do it again.
Yeah, it is.
And Renee wants us to come out to her place and have a little retreat out there. So, but so that's my little bit of history with you. When we get together. Sabina is the reason I am here. You know, I was a program coordinator a long time ago, but it was for corporate, so it was not fun. And then didn't work and had little things, did things for a few times, and I was ready to get back. I was working at BASC, BMW, but I was ready to have a career. I was ready to get back to my kids are raised. My daughter's off to college now. My other one's out of the house, and so because she has a career, before she even realized it. But she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to do this. But I don't want it to look like this corporate world. I want it to be fun. And, and she's on the board, and the opportunity came up, and she said, Diana. I said, oh, and I was scared to death, because it had been a long time since I worked, in that arena. But it worked out perfectly.
It did.
So
I recuse myself for voting for it, just so you know.
But so she asks you the right questions. She encourages, she pushes you. And also because I was another job I applied.
You tried to apply for another job in
it doesn't
insurance company.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's just because it would have been really easy at that time in my life. So I want to do this, but I don't really want to do what it takes to do it. And so she kept pushing me. I'll help you. I'm like, fine. I'll help you with the resume. I'm like, fine. I gotta do it now, right? Because I can't go back on it. That's true. So like I said, it would have been just me. I would have not have done it.
You sat on my porch, and you pretty much refused to do the work. And with the loving, kind person I am, I told you, do it.
I'm like, I never say, it's so long because it needed to. It was really interesting. But I remember, when I was applying for this, being scared, and
but here's the thing that I learned: I'm scared about my journey now.
Yeah.
If we're not scared, we don't want it. That's the way I see it. If we're not scared, we don't want it.
Okay.
But if we find that we're a little scared about it, or apprehensive, or you know, we've got that feeling in our tummy,
Yeah.
then that means that we want it. And it's when we really need to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best job ever. So do we have, well, first of all, we have a couple more questions. So, we are on what makes you laugh?
What makes everything
Yeah.
myself. I'm a fun person, I think. I just, I love to laugh. I laugh at myself all the time. I do silly things and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. But you know, if you take life too serious, are you living? That's the way I see it. I mean, I love to have fun. I like to pick on people in love and kindness. I don't do it to hurt anyone's feelings or anything. But yeah.
So, what bit of wisdom would you like to share with all of us?
Don't ever give up. If there's something that you want to do, find a way to do it. Live your life, enjoy it. You know, try to make the best out of every day. Live in gratitude. I've tried to live my life in gratitude. So I get up in the morning, I say my gratitude, I set my intentions for the day. Doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. You know, I have days I come home and I'm just like, and then I just try to refocus and settle down. And I guess you can call me a tree hugger. When it's nice enough out, when it's not in the wintertime, I like to go out. I have a willow tree that I planted 30-some years ago. And my willow tree, one side of it is kind of dying off. And I'm like, okay, she's just like me. We're both having a little issues. But she's still my tree. And so I just love to hug my tree and embrace it and breathe and feel nature and recenter myself and ground, and then life is all good again. You know, walk barefoot in the grass. Make a mud puddle. Oh my gosh, summertime can't come soon enough. I love to make little mud puddles and walk stomping them like a little kid. There's nothing better. Why are we not being kids anymore? Because we're in this body now, in this age, that shouldn't hold us back for having fun. That's I guess. Did we talk about wisdom? Because I don't know where we were now, but that's just
That's your wisdom.
that's my wisdom. Just have fun, enjoy your life.
Yeah, at any age.
At any age.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm a board member, because I want to be ready when I retire. I want this place to be ready for me. I want to make sure that we're doing fun things here, that the building is updated, you know, because I'm not working until I'm 70. I'm going to quit here before too long, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to have some fun.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen, sister. Hallelujah.
Just watch out.
She'll be in our Zumba class.
Well, maybe chair yoga.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with everybody?
No, but if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
It seems like you have such a good relationship with your mom and dad. How do they handle you coming here?
That was my question too. So.
Oh,
Because I can't imagine
it's
my child.
it was difficult for all of us. So don't think that this was an easy journey for me.
I'm sure it was.
But my parents, they knew my husband, and they knew that he was treating me well with kindness and love, and that made it easier on them. Just knowing that I am with somebody that makes me happy and that will take care of me. That's
Did
pretty
you
much
have
it.
any really long, deep talks about?
With my parents?
Yes.
Well, yes. I did have those conversations with my parents about leaving and coming here. And, I told them, I said, you don't have a guarantee when you get married, right? We pick a person, we meet them, we get to know each other, we live with them. That's when you learn all the quirks about each other, right? Do they snore? Do they talk in their sleep? Do they put their shoes away? Are the socks under the dining room table? You know, all those things that make you angry and stuff as a woman. But there's no guarantee. I said I can marry a German guy that can be an alcoholic and beat me. or I can marry this guy and move with him and live a loving life. And my parents would come over every 2 years, and then I would try to go home in the other years that they weren't coming.
Okay, so you've been able to go back.
We've been able to go back and forth, and my children have been over there numerous times.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, yes. When my parents would come, they would come for a longer stay. My dad was usually stay for about 3 months. My mom usually for about a month, because my dad had to take early retirement. So he could stay a little longer. My mom would stay for the 5-6 week vacation that she would have. So, yeah. Any other questions from the peanut gallery?
So, Mom,
Maxine.
So for you, because you said to your son, don't bring home a German, but
I
how
was
did,
kidding.
I know, but
Because we were all Germans.
there you go. So for you, if you don't have to answer any question, but just for your experience, she has said one of the things that you just like totally just wrapped your arms around her, and she feels you as a daughter and mother, and you just treat her very well. But for you, that had to have been kind of scary too.
It was extremely scary. But my son had pretty good judgment. And I had talked to her on the phone a couple of times.
Okay.
And,
Do you speak German?
no.
No.
We managed to communicate, but Jim was in the background, her husband was in the background, listening too. But, yeah, I had talked to her a few times
Okay.
and trusted my son's
Yeah.
smartness. And our daughter had gone over there. She's 2 years younger than Jim. She'd gone over for spring break,
Okay.
so she met.
She stayed with me for
Yeah,
2 weeks.
she stayed with you, and she came back and said, "Mom, you're gonna like her."
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, we're so glad that you made your decision.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
I'm still homesick once in a while, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time, it's been over 8 years now that I've been home. Actually, it's been long, it's been 10 years since I've been home. I've been wanting to go, but then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And now my passport ran out, so now I have to get a new passport, which takes a long time, but I'm gonna be on that plane before too long. You wanna come along?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, we'll plan.
I have a grandson that was born in Germany, and he was issued 2 birth certificates, a German one and a United States one. They told the parents that when he became 18, if he chose a German, he could become a German citizen. He told his mom the other day, he said, "You know what? I think I made a mistake." He said, "I think I should have chose Germany." But anyway, yeah, they enjoyed their tour over there. My son-in-law was in the Air Force over there, and that's where one of my oldest grandsons was born there,
Very nice.
and they loved it. Trevor said, "I'd like to go back," but never did.
Yeah, I gave up my German citizenship when I became an American citizen.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do you have contacts, because your parents are,
My parents are
Ascended.
gone.
do you have contact with?
I have my 2
cousins?
favorite uncles that are still living, and by the way, I gotta call them. Thanks for the reminder.
You got it.
I talk to them once a month. Yeah, one of them I do over Skype, so we video chat. The other one doesn't want anything to do with the computer. I have a bunch of cousins, some of them who I'm in touch with, some of them I'm not. And I have 2 of my most wonderful friends over there that I just love them, and they're always here for me. So.
Now, is one of them still the woman that was in the deli?
The bakery?
The bakery, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
My friend knows. So here's a fun story. One more quick fun story. My name is Sabine, and so is her name. Sabine is one of the most common names for girls, and I'll use that term a little lightly, for the year before I was born, the year I was born, and the year after I was born. So there are a lot of Sabines around, okay? I picked my best friend to be a Sabine, of course.
My childhood best friend was a Diana.
Yeah, see? So when somebody would holler Sabine, we both be going, what? And it was getting to be a little confusing, so we decided we needed to get nicknames. And I picked Sissy as Sissi, because Sissy was a Bavarian princess who ended up marrying the Austrian emperor. And her real name was Elizabeth, Princess Elizabeth, but her family called her Sissy. And she had a tragic kind of story to her life, but they made this really romantic movie about her, and that's why I picked Sissy.
I didn't know it was with an I.
Yeah, with an I. It got made with an Y when I came over here, so, but in Germany I used it with an I. And my friend, she could she could make the Pinocchio voice that was in the Pinocchio TV shows. And so we started calling her Pinocchio for a while, and then we shortened it to Gnocchi.
Okay.
So that's her nickname. She still goes by it. I still go by Sissy, and yeah, that's how we got our nicknames.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for anybody? Well, thank you, Sabina, for
Thank
being
you.
here today and sharing with us, letting us get to know you, and wishing you all the best success and what success means for you in your new adventure. You'll be touching
Thank
people's
you.
lives. I know you touched mine. And we're so grateful that you are part of the BASC family and doing what you do and supporting our patrons and making sure that we are moving forward and upward. And to everyone here, thank you so
Thank you.
kindly for
Appreciate
being here.
it.
You do make a difference, and we do appreciate you take time out of your day so we get to know other people and make friends. So thank you. You are all a blessing.
Thank you very much.